well. So today will probably suck. I mean, the market already gapped down like 1.5%. So there's not really. I mean, they're gonna make us chase it down, basically. So I don't. If we had the gap up or even a flat open, I mean, we would have got this epic shred. But the market already did the epic shred pre-market. Oh, shit. Yeah. This is going to be a little bit tricky because we're going to bleed down into yesterday's low, it looks like. But we're going to be like really extended going into it. I mean, in general, you always have like 1 or 2 days a week where you're going to make a majority of your money. I think probably yesterday seemed like maybe one of those days. And we're going to have to see what happens around here. Like if we open up to like slightly above, we don't necessarily know if that's going to be a bounce trade or not, just because of the extension it's come down. I would really take it a little bit easy at the open on your size, just due to the fact that, I mean, it's first of all, it's rare to ever gap down like 1.5%. So I would not chase the market down at the open. What we'll have to do is either wait for a little bit of a pop at the open and then see if we start to roll over, or if we knife through this 297. But that's gonna take us to like 1.7, 1.8% down on the day. It makes it like really, really difficult if you're trading like just regular stocks. We may have to just look at more like earnings type of plays for today and kind of get a little bit of the goose and the gander on that. There's actually some decent PR plays that we can play, so where we don't have to necessarily sit there and stare at the market. I prayed before I went to bed we'd get a gap up, and my prayers were not answered. So we're gonna probably have to stay away from the market short for a little bit. There are some interesting plays out there. This KCAC is a SPAC play that is, I believe, started by the notorious Bill Gates, the notorious BIG, notorious Bill Gates. I believe they're going to be focusing on like batteries, which is obviously been like a hot thing of recent. I think this one may have legs. I wouldn't chase this one at the open, but we'll see how this thing pulls back. If the market's getting smoked out today, I mean, it may not, this may not hold up. This may not hold up at all. Yeah, add it to the list. Let's see what else is popping up. Popping, pop-a-locking. Yeah, see, this thing's got some news FLGNA, provide combined COVID influenza testing. I don't even know what that means. Blah, 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 blah. The problem with this one is it's already been kind of dicker and dealed with. It's going to be under too much resistance. NVAX has introduced, they got a PR out, supply agreement with Johnson & Johnson, Canada. I believe that news has already come out. I will say something, and NVAX is going to be very, very tricky. The last 5 times NVAX has had news out that actually reads pretty good, it's faded off that day. So that's something to just be mindful of. I've seen it now the last so many times. I've seen this the last so many times it's had a PR, it'll just pop up and then it fades off. Will this time be any different? I don't know. I only see 286,000 shares in volume in the pre-market. I mean, that doesn't seem like some epic amount. I've got it on the list in case it starts to gear up, but doesn't seem like it's going to be a monster priority. This 5, look at this, below, they didn't even really, 5 below, reported market close, so they beat estimates by a little bit. This is like a retail company, but you do have a nice breakout over here. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing go if the market holds up. This one, I'd add that to the list for now. This sector, retail stocks stink, but this sector, specialty retail's been hot. It's been just fantastic. So I'd keep that on the list for today. Let's see here, WLL. So WL had 1 to 1,000 split, so it's been moving all over the place. It's still gonna probably go to 0. I'd probably leave that alone. CCL. So this is actually interesting. So CCL's got a 5% pop today, even though the market is like getting smoked. You've got a big base breakout here. Now Carnival Cruise Lines is like just, it stinks to trade. It's a little bit thick, but it's still tradable. I don't know if RCL's going too. And then we have NCLH. NCLH has got like a nice little range break too. So it looks like these three cruisers are moving. Frankly, like when the market is gapping down this much, looking for like a few pockets of strength where you may be able to find some trades is a good idea. I'd add these three cruise lines. It looks like Carnival is the cleanest chart out of the three. As RCL, you still got a few bucks, but in general, you're getting closer to the 200 SMA. Now, RCL does trade a lot better than Carnival does, and NCLH is like slightly better than Carnival. Carnival's just thick, so it just it doesn't have that same juice, but it looks like that's got the best chart out of the group. And you can already see it's got 1.6 million shares in volume. Like that one looks not so bad. Let's add that to the list for now. And then we'll narrow all this junk down. Junk. All right, so there were all sorts of earnings plays that got. So this like Kazuo had been really cooking and booking, and see like you get smoked on some bad earnings. This Pager Duty's another one, was flying high, smoked on the earnings. Sienna, this one also has been getting torn up on earnings. The issue with these three is that they're all kind of, none of them are like in a clean spot where you're going to be where we could take like a short on an ORB or quick pullback at the open just because of where this is. That's going to be a little bit tricky. I think crowd has, if crowd can get under its 9 EMA here in the daily, then I think this one's still got some room to fall, because even though it's only down 10%, you got to think crowd was just like 90 bucks a few days ago. It looks like their earnings have been a disappointment. I draw a trend line right at the 9 EMA, and that also is like this gap fill spot here. If it can break, I would only be interested if it breaks under here. So you got a 9 EMA, you got this gap fill spot. Till it breaks under, it's probably still a long. You've only really given back 1 day's worth of gains. Like, a lot of times you see an earnings report or something, and it looks really nasty, but then you're like, ah, shit, like it only gave back like 1 day's worth of gains. I'd add it to the list for now. RKT's another one. They had its earnings report out. Numbers read fine, but in general, like it doubled in the last month. So what's happening is, you're just kind of coming back and giving up a handful of days of gains. I'd see this one too. Like, see how it's just hugging on its 9 right now? It really need to like bust under this level. So I would mark down like this kind of base from pre-market. Just mark it on your charts. What'll start to happen is if the market really does want to get, sold off today, then this one's going to just like, you'll start to see it, right? You'll start to see it start to float down and break those kind of pre-market lows. When it does that, like, we can start looking at it. Till it does, it'll be on the 9. It'll be really, really tricky. Tesla's getting smoked already. Watch this thing. So yesterday's low was like 400. If we break under yesterday's low, like this thing is probably going to be a short. Now it's gapping down 8%. So you can't short Tesla down like 8%. It's just, that's a widowmaker. But like what we'll have to see is if this thing pops up to, let's say like 420, 425, and then you start to see the lower highs and that kind of rug pull start to happen, then we're going to have a chance on this. I'd set an alert like right around yesterday's low. If it breaks under, we'll be good to go. Riot junk. Last one to add for today is, keep the NASDAQ ETF, but don't keep the regular NASDAQ, right? Use the TQQ. The TQQ is the 3X ETF for the NASDAQ. So if the NASDAQ moves 1%, this will move 3%. It's got sick range. Like yesterday, the range was from 176 to 165 back to 176. So you had a $20 range on it. You still have, right, quite a few points into the 9 EMA. Just because the market's down, open so weak, doesn't necessarily mean it can't go down more. But the probabilities are much lower because you're taking so much of the stretch out. You're taking so much of that rubber band snap that we needed. So that's why I think, we may have to wait for a little bit of a pop at the open. Or if the market wants an ORB, then we'll just shred this thing to the downside. When the market gets a little bit more volatile, and you've seen that volatility the last couple days, yesterday, where it's you gapped up and it was oh, market's flying, and then it faded hard, and then it came all the back. When you get that kind of volatility, stick with just easier names. Every stock is going to just move around together. So you can just have a handful of a bigger names, and they'll move around really good. I think this Peloton's got the most room to fall. You've got your 9 EMA is at 79, so I think you got $10. You got $10 on this thing to fall. That's gonna be probably you're gonna have still a ton of room on that one. So I definitely between that and TQQ, I think, and then these earnings plays, I don't really think we need that much else. You can add in Tesla and all this stuff, but I take away a lot of the kind of junk that we've been, not junk, but when the market's just going up every day, you get really knee deep into, specialty stocks. I don't think we're going to need those today. SDC is a nice looking chart. Obviously it's opening weak because the market, but in general, if the market starts to rebound, you will. This is a 1 test, 2 test, 3 tests, 4 tests of the breakout spot, and you've got a gap fill up here into that 11, 12 range. If the market starts to rebound today, and you do got a weak open on this, I think this one will have a chance for a potential red to green. It'll just need some market cooperation. If the market decides that today's the day it starts to roll over, then what's going to happen is this particular name is just going to get, obviously this is a huge turn most likely. It's going to start fading that gap really, really good. Cool. That is the list. We don't really need to add anything else. So add in NVAX, Cackalack, 5, but I moved this to the bottom of the list because it's retail. Carnival Cruise Lines. If the market holds, I think this one will be fine. We got NCLH. Add Crowd to the top of the list too. RKTs, and add our RKT, we pretty much trade every day. RKT, the caveat is going to be that, it's got to really break under that 9. You got a bunch of support here. If it starts to lose here, I think we'll be okay. Yeah, you know what? All the tech stocks are going to move together. With the NASDAQ getting floated like this, there's going to be some room to fall on these. You see with ZM. You got ZM's got some room to fall. DocU, I believe their earnings are after hours, so you're going to have to be careful on this one, but you still got some room to fall. Grouch, turd. We know that. Grouch always a turd. This LCA, if the market rebounds, this LCA looks pretty good. So there are a handful of logs that you can. But I just stick with the big name for today. I just this gut feeling that things are going to shift around and percolate and marinate, and we're due for a pullback anyways. Big takeaway for today: don't chase the market into the hole down 1.5%. And market crashes never work anyways for the most part. Let this thing pop up, or let it just marinate for 5, 10, 15 minutes at the open. See what's starting to happen, and then and then take your shots. Good. If we had gapped up, we'd be shorting everything, the first candle. We didn't get that gap, so now we gotta kind of rejigger what we want to do. So that's the list. I'm sticking to it. Mr. Hassman, where you been? I've been looking for you in the chat room every day. I even messaged you the other day. You playing games? Better not see any funny business. Alright, that's the list. I'm sticking to it. Good, 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 good.